Cliffhanger. Okay, so I'm finally getting around to doing a review of a series that I finished watching not terribly long ago. It's been a few weeks, but certainly this year I finished watching it. I'm so bad about, keeping on track with watching certain things. Anyway, this was for a series on Facebook Watch called Limetown, and I did not know at the time that I watched the trailer, did a reaction and review for the trailer, that it was based on a fairly popular fiction podcast sort of thing, and they made it into this show. So I found that out after I saw the trailer, and I found out that there was a season 2 of the podcast. And I was intrigued by the concept. I started watching it. Each episode is about 25 to 30 minutes long, so not very long. And I think there's a total of 10 episodes. So it's about, between 4 and 5 hours long, if I'm doing my math right. And it's early morning, so I might not be. But anyway, so I'm going to say this right off the bat, you guys. If you do not like cliffhanger endings, especially when you know that the series is not coming back because it was not renewed, then you might want to stay away. It was a huge disappointment to find out that it hadn't been renewed. Now, I knew that it hadn't been renewed. It was canceled. I knew that before I got to the end. And I was hoping that at least there would be some sort of resolution to the storyline. And there are some resolutions here and there. But as a whole, the story is still very much continuing at the end, and there's a big cliffhanger. And it was super disappointing. I cannot stand that. And it's a shame that Facebook is not bringing this back. I'm not sure if it was because, excuse me, I'm not sure if it was because the ratings were not that great or what. There's another show on Netflix, actually. I mean, not Netflix. Have I been saying Netflix this whole time? If I have, I'm sorry. Facebook. I'm not sure why Facebook isn't bringing this back. And then I was getting ready to say there's another series actually that I'm interested to watch, but I need to check and find out if that thing ends on a cliffhanger because anyway, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. But that aside, I liked the show. I thought it was pretty well done. I thought it was very tightly written. Each episode moved along at a decent pace. There wasn't a lot of drag. And yet at the same time, I didn't feel like it dragged on. No, I'm sorry. That's wrong. I didn't feel like it was too rushed, in other words. That was one of the things I noticed after I finished the first episode, that while it was very efficiently written, moved along well, you didn't feel like everything was just rapid clip, like it was just going. And there were all these characters in and out. And it just felt like it was just too much crammed into something. It didn't feel that way, surprisingly, for such a short episode length. And I really appreciated that about this. The acting was pretty decent. What's her name? Oh, shoot. Jessica Biel. She's not really my favorite actress, but I feel like she did a decent job in here. Her character was kind of, Leah Haddock is the name of the character. And basically, if you don't know the synopsis, the premise by now, she is investigating the disappearance of all these people in this town that had been set up, I guess, for like research or something. And something apparently went wrong. A lot of people died, and then a lot of people just disappeared, including her uncle. And so she's trying to find out what happened. And that's what the whole show is about. And of course, she uncovers a lot of bad stuff. She's under threat to a certain degree because of the things that she is finding out. And so you're watching, like along with her as she uncovers stuff. And something about her character, though, I'm not quite sure what to make of her character, because she does these odd things that didn't make sense to me. Well, like one offhand, I don't want to get too much into specifics, especially because of the nature of what I'm going to mention, but she would do these things, and maybe if I knew more about the podcast, I would understand her character more. But she's not necessarily an unsympathetic character, but she does weird stuff. Like there was this one scene where she's in a hotel room with her investigative partner, and it's a guy, and she is a lesbian, so there's no real, sexual attraction between them. And he's sleeping on the bed, and then she's on the other bed, and she starts to mess with herself, watching him sleeping and snoring and breathing heavy or whatever. And I totally did not get that. I was like, okay, what? That's weird. What was that all about? That made no sense to me at all. But anyway, she's a very driven character, and she has just that is her goal, is to find out what happened with Limetown, what happened with her uncle. And she does some sort of shady stuff. There's something that happens that's it's an accident, but it's pretty bad what happened. And she, of course, to protect herself and to keep her investigation intact, she distorts reality. She manipulates the way things are perceived. So it's just kind of like her character's a little gray. You know what I mean? She's not like a black or white type, pure good, pure bad type, protagonist. It makes her interesting, but it makes her a little confusing, because I can't quite figure out where her head's at sometimes. Anyway, and once she's reached a certain point in her investigation, I don't quite understand why does she want to continue, because she's found this particular answer. But maybe it's just because she's just so driven, and she just wants to get to the bottom of all her questions, and she will not stop unless all her questions are answered. I mean, maybe that's just the type of character that she is. Like I said, I'm not familiar with the podcast at all. So I went into this completely blind beyond what I'd seen in the trailer, completely blind to the story and the characters involved. Anyway, I did enjoy it. That huge disappointment of the cliffhanger, and just no resolution at all as far as anything beyond that. So, if you don't mind things like that, and if you are interested in storylines like this, what Limetown is about, then, sure, check it out. But if cliffhangers turn you off, then you might not be too happy with that. I don't know. It's hard for me to say that it was worth the watch, because I did enjoy it, but it left a sour taste in my mouth, because I don't know what's going to happen. So, I don't know. If I had to do it all over again, I don't know if I would go back and rewatch this. I don't know if I would go back and watch it knowing that there's this big cliffhanger at the end. Not sure. Couldn't tell you. Because I did like what I saw. It took me a while to get through it, not because it was boring or anything like that. It was just I would be sometimes not necessarily in the mood to watch it whenever I was able to sit down and watch it, and I wanted to check out other things or whatever. But yeah, I mean, maybe I'll check out the second season. I don't know how closely this follows the actual season 1 of the podcast. So perhaps the second season will give me answers, and maybe that will change how I feel about how this ended. But anyway, I can't think of anything else specifically to add about this. I'm trying to, I've touched on the acting. I've touched on the way the episodes were constructed. And the issue with the cliffhanger. Can't think of anything else to add. Watch me remember something as soon as I stop recording. So But anyway, I don't want to just yammer on and on just for the sake of it. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. And if you guys have seen this, let me know what you think about it. And if you watched or listened to the podcast, how does it compare, in your opinion, to the show? Is it better? Is it worse? I did read something somewhere about how that the show kind of explores a little bit more stuff in detail or in depth, and you learn different things from the show that you didn't necessarily know from the podcast. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll check out the second season and we'll see if it answers the questions. I don't know if this is still supposed to continue or if it's done at the end of the second season of the podcast. So, but I guess I'll find that out, won't I? Okay, you guys, that's it for now. Nos vemos.